welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rational Investors Broiler Chicken Show. Back. Happy, where are we here? Happy Sunday, 12th of May. That means that troublemaker Liz's birthday is over. Finally, we can get back to a bull market, right? Something like that. Maybe it was Chris. It was one of those two. Anyway, obviously, and actually, I was quite touched. The community. I don't really have much of a family. My father's passed. My stepmother, I think she's passed. I'm not quite sure what happened to her. Haven't talked to my mother in a million years. She wasn't an overly impressive character. And I don't really have relations with siblings. So obviously, well, I don't know whether you know or not, but my wife passed, 13 years ago now. And it's just me and my special needs son. So we don't really interact with too much other family. So you guys are basically my family. That's half the reason why I'm as public and as boisterous as I am is you're the only people I talk to. I could talk to Liam, but unfortunately he doesn't really talk back. So I suppose if you ask some parents, you go, "Hey, Brian, you got off lucky, man." But anyway, was very touched by the amount of outpouring of support and just general affection, I guess, yesterday from the community. I really appreciate it, guys. Made me feel good. So thank you. And also too on social media, some venues, I got some well wishes. So that generally was a good thing, I think. If anything, this makes perfect sense what we're seeing happening in the market. Sell in May and walk away. We used to joke when I was teaching level one, or God, it's remarkable. We've been teaching this school program for 10 years now. Absolutely stunning. Anyway, I used to always joke, of course, this is the time of year when the pros, sell all their stocks that they bid up, things like coin, how's that done? A lot of the ETFs, of course, the Bitcoin ETF. Actually, it was basically 1 year ago today that, well, not 1 year ago today, but just about exactly 1 year ago, somewhere in there, Mr. Fink came out and demanded, "I'm going to get my Bitcoin ETF, whether it kills you or not. It's coming." Because, of course, I run Wall Street now, damn it. So it's quite remarkable to see how the oligarchs have firmly established themselves back into positions of power with the turn of this century. And we're all basically slaves to a very small percentage of our population once again. I've always said, ironically enough, the worst thing that could possibly happen to Western civilization was the collapse of the Soviet Union. And sure enough, basically since the day that died, and then China kind of went, "Oh yeah, communism, fuck you. We're a totalitarian dictatorship. You don't like it? Go parade around Tiananmen Square and see how that goes for you." Nobody ever talks about that anymore. Mind you, God, what's happening in China? What a typical end to a dictatorship story. Never ends. Oh, it's so tragic is seeing how my country, Canada was like the last bastion of freedom. We were up here in our igloos and waving our hockey sticks and just being all around nice, polite people. Nobody really ever had a beef about Canada. And oh my God, what is this idiot who's running our country? What is he turning this place into? Now, if you want to leave China, you're going to be hit with like a $25,000 fine. Give me a break. Oh, this place never ends. I'm not quite sure what the end story of this society and this civilization is. We might all just be heading right off the cliff here. God, you listen to the rhetoric coming out of Russia there, and the idiot there, he's actually going to try and justify a nuclear war here. He is literally saying, get ready, it's coming. So, man, what a mess. Anyway, if anything, let's hope we survive through to the latter part of the 2020s in this current form of society. But I will say there is one orange-haired toupeed gentleman who's going to make this November rather interesting. And then, of course, if the election is stolen from him, does that cascade the United States into some sort of crazy ass fucking civil war? Wow, some crazy ass times we're living in here, folks. Can't write better fiction than reality. And if I understand correctly, even what I just said there, just that last few minutes, and the irony of it all is I wouldn't even be surprised if you say hate speech to like Winnie the Pooh in my country and you'll be arrested for hate speech. So it just goes to show the whole damn thing is like all globally coordinated. Anyway, we'll see. I've always thought that 2030s, of course, my horoscope said that was the end of my good fortune. And things turn sour after that. I wouldn't be surprised if I spend the 2030s in a prison cell somewhere. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Probably the most important thing is we got to get that house for Liam, get him out of state care, nice annuities all set up, and then I've done my good deed, and I don't really care what they do to me. Just hope the torture isn't going to be too bad. Anyway, we'll see. So there's an interesting start to your broadcast. Tumultuous times we're living in, that's for darn sure. Interesting too that I noticed that a lot of anecdotal evidence coming from around our society that the consumer was feeling fairly flush there. I think heading into that whole manufactured sickness nonsense, I think our society was actually feeling very we're heading in a good direction. We're positive. We're making strides forward on human rights and freedoms and stuff. And then this sickness came along, and it's like literally all of the wealth of society. I would make the argument that the sickness was nothing more than a cover for them to actually show what the ultimate results of exploding the money supply the way they did to bail out the U.S. banking system in the following 2008 financial crisis nonsense, which was nothing more than just the U.S. housing bubble bursting. It wasn't a great financial crisis. That's a load of horse hockey. And probably the best anecdote for you, if you really want to learn about the market and learn about history, was why on earth in Canada, where there was no recession, there was no break in prices, there was no horrendous great financial crisis. It didn't exist in my country. And yet, for some reason, the central bankster crooks all justified quantitative easing in my country. They had no business doing it there. That was a US problem. But it just goes to show how coordinated all these central banksters are around the world together. And, call it Klaus, call it whatever, the ruling elite of our society, Christine Lagarde and her silly numerology nonsense. That was, if you're looking for historical evidence of how corrupt and how colluded all this banking industry was, that was an absolutely perfect anecdote of that. And of course, like Australia, they boasted how they went through like something like 20 years without a recession. Well, maybe you should have had a recession in 2008. And that would have cleaned up some of the excesses of the society. They money print. They didn't really need to money print. They were a commodities country. Everything was just humming along, business as usual. They go and money print, and of course now, we used to have a buddy of ours who lived in Australia, and he was a smoker, and he was like, "I got to get out of here." It's like $50 for a pack of smokes in Australia. I mean, what an insult. It's just a stupid world. It's one thing to sit like on the other side of the generation. Like, I grew up in like the 70s and 80s and stuff. And what ended up happening there in the 70s, 80s, 90s kind of stuff, like we would look back and hear stories from our grandparents and stuff about how bad it was in the 30s and 40s when that was the same part of the economic cycle that we're going through now. Um, and actually, I was even musing about this while getting ready to do this video today. How you know, for somebody who's just coming online right now and just learning about money and money management, and, sort of how corrupt everything is and how brutally the background is right now for you and I, Joe Sixpack consumers. Um, it's almost hard to believe that we lived in a world that was actually pretty happy-go-lucky. George Bush Sr. used to call the post Soviet Union era, the Americans were going to become a kindler, gentler nation. That didn't go over very well. So that was following the end of the Cold War. Oh, boy. Anyway, tough times we're living in. Not going to sugarcoat it. This ain't going to be easy, folks. I will say, though, just listening to the blind shills, you better be damn careful here with your money. Gucci sweater wearers, you literally could not walk into a more brutally laid trap than what just happened there. I mean, not only because Bitcoin was going through a serious fundamental event, and often we have, a very enthusiastic audience heading into the event, prices get bid up, and then on the actual event news, people go, okay, now what? And because unfortunately prices get bid up and then there is no sort of new fundamental event following, you get into this funny little air pocket where really nothing's happening. I mean, what's the big fundamental drivers right now in crypto? I can't think of too many. I will caution that I don't think it's a good idea to get too uberly bearish right now. I think you actually kind of missed the opportunity there about a month or so ago. Ironically enough, when everybody and their brother in the public was bullish, and then you started to see the signs of a top. Where's our funny buddy? And this is difficult for new people to investing and trading to do. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, hey, this is a walk in the park. But you got to be this guy up here, right? This is where you wanted to be shorting. And hopefully you take a bit of profits and then put your stops at scratch. And this is almost like, like the seventh or eighth inning of this bear move. I wouldn't even be surprised if this ultimately becomes some sort of basing window here. Not quite ready to abandon the shorts just yet. But I don't know. I don't feel very comfortable with the idea of coming in and strapping on new shorts here. As I said, I think you're coming a little bit late to the party. So I know there was one person on the TRI site that was posting things like bear put spreads. Keep in mind, like on corn, we were talking about those bear put spreads like weeks ago in the SOF club meeting. So if anything, this is a really good anecdote why you're really not fully educated at TRI until you complete the entire program. And something like talking about bear put spreads, actually, our SOFers are consummate professionals at this stuff now. They even have fancy spreadsheets and algorithms and stuff that spit out the correct trades. And as I said, that coin story, we were talking about bear puts like weeks ago, if not months ago. So be careful there on getting too jazzed about new shorts here. I'd almost say, ironically enough, I put a tweet out recently about Bitcoin. Kind of thinking, actually, I was interested because on Friday's show we actually looked at some of the options expiry, um, and I got the impression that actually we're pretty close to some sort of pivot here. I wouldn't say it's today. I still think that you have to wait for the actual bottoms to come in. If it's anything, this is probably a really good analogy. Brian's usually right, but Brian's usually early. So could it take another few weeks? This is the tweet that I wanted to show you. Could it take a few weeks for us to just sort of settle out, have some sort of puke out event into this big fat round number of 50 grand? And then that actually starts the base for our next bull market in Bitcoin. Yeah, I could see that. And the thing is, here we are, basically about 60 grand right now. I'm thinking that the target is 50 grand and the top is 70 grand. So you coming in here and shorting at 60, it's kind of like just a coin toss, right? You lose a buck if you're proven wrong by the market. You make a buck if you're proven right. Those aren't the kind of odds that you really want to concentrate on. I don't know whether it was just dumb luck. It might have been. But if you had the opportunity to come in and start hunting up in these reload zones, and there are, colorful people on the internet. This ICT guy, he's a bit of a character. Beamish, that guy's a bit of a character. uh, but people were barking about, this is considering how insanely bullish the public is. And this was exactly the point that those silly Gucci sweater wearers were coming out. And it was exactly the point that everybody in the public started saying, well, this time it's different. This time it's different. As soon as I hear that, I literally have to go, all right, time to start hunting shorts. It's just as simple as that. And once again, it was spot on, just absolutely spot on. But I could very easily see that the risks are skewed. We could easily come up and bust to new highs. I don't know whether we're going to or not, but we could. And we could easily come down into 50% levels, which I think is probably the more natural, realistic thing to happen. Let's see if we even have that on here. This is off of this range here. Let's throw on Mr. 50% just for fun. There he is. So, and actually interesting. Well, actually, that's pretty high. I think this was Mr. Fink's I want a Bitcoin ETF love. So actually, that's being a bit generous. Yeah, here we are. So oh yeah, God, we've come a long way. This probably isn't the best chart to use. Let's maybe look at a little higher. There's 50%. And actually, this is what happened in that 15-16 cycle as we banged into 50%. And what I've just been simply telling the folks, in fact, we put this in the newsletter here today. Yeah, I guess that's over here on the tweet I put out today. I really don't see anything shocking here. It's just business as usual. Interesting how I don't have the headline here. That's a bit odd. I guess I shrunk in too close. But anyway, oh, actually, yeah, this is an old headline. That's why. Anyway, following the chalk marks through seasonal correction window, and really, there's nothing really surprising here. There is our eclipse window. Remember, we talked about how important these darn eclipses are. So I do think that was a pivot. And looking back in hindsight, you see it even more as a pivot. Try and learn from this. Make a note of that. Take a screenshot of it. Throw in your journals. This is such an important sort of lesson for all new people to trading. That actually, it turns out that celestial events actually have a huge impact on the market. There's our big fundamental event, the happening. Dun dun dun. FOMC didn't help. Remember, we had the sell on the rumor heading into that FOMC event, then buy on the news coming out of that FOMC event. What I was a little concerned about was the sort of overt bullishness that this dead cat bounce generated, even in the TRI community. I was a little disappointed. Last Thursday, actually, I guess it was right around here last Thursday. I left for Liam and the market was perking up here, and I came back and people were like, well, you're going to regret for not buying the dip. And well, we're going straight up from here. And I was like, we don't even have any W's. What are you guys talking about? Jeez, you're driving me crazy. So at the very least, we want to see some damn W's here. And if you change this, this is a obviously candlestick. Yeah, and obviously Friday was a very ugly day. That was on consumer sentiment numbers coming out of the University of Michigan, which is ironic because I suppose Michigan's probably the last place in the world you should be thinking about consumers being happy. I don't know how Detroit's looking these days. Maybe it's better. Anyway, the one good part about this action, although it hasn't come in yet, is if we do actually put in some W's, put in some bullish structure, you can see how the market itself is setting up, even for a guy like me, the next trade. So if I can actually get some sort of W to come in here and hold this level right there. Weird. I thought I changed this. Anyway, that level right there, that represents the new longing level for me based on my favorite trend continuation setup that I like to trade. Zibat. So I wouldn't fault somebody if they were like, hey, I got a W working here. Maybe the momentum indicators are supportive. I think momentum is actually in divergence right now a little bit. I suppose that helps the cause. We don't have all this stuff on here though, do we? Yeah, let's go like that. Yeah. You got MACD, got a little bit of a div happening there. So maybe that's helpful. They don't have Willie Stupid yet, though. I really like to see when MACD divergence comes in and Willie is stupidly oversold. That sets up a fantastic opportunity. So not seeing it out of the indicators just yet. I suppose our very simple trending model for the moving averages, fast moving average, I like to follow 13 EMA, is below the slow moving average, 30 SMA. That in itself is bearish. So there's nothing really, trend wise to think bullish here at all. So this is kind of just wishful thinking. But if it does come in, then you can actually see the next trade setting itself up. It's no accident that we dead cat bounced right off the bottom of this channel. I mean, this is absolutely textbook. Keep in mind, this channel, this teal lines that you see here, this is drawn based off of this high, and that low. I mean, just let that process. Take a screenshot. Here's another awesome little tidbit, of course, covered in our level 2 education program, how to draw trend channels. This is such an incredibly powerful concept. Let me say that again. This teal line with this red dotted line, it's drawn off of the market rallying up to here, then backing off. Doesn't really matter about that price. Then rallying back up and testing that high, but not getting through it. And then coming down and actually trading through this low. If you do get that event, which happened here, then that means that this line now changes from a potential trend line, which is pretty powerful unto itself, but in actual, on the event of the market actually trading below this low, this now becomes an active, valid, in your face, real trend. This is the trend. And as I said there a moment ago, this channel concept, which look how that completely defined that pivot low there. Look how it defined this pivot high here. Look how it defined this pivot high here. Look how it defined this. This midpoint trend channel is not derived off of any of this price action. It's derived off of that high, and that low. That's stunning to think about that. this high, and this low told you that the market was going to pivot right off of that level there. That's freaky ass stuff, man. Write that down. Learn from this. I mean, that's incredible. There isn't any other indicator that told you that the market was going to pivot right there. I mean, it's all out in open air. Why the hell did the market pivot right there? And then, as I said there a second ago, why on earth did the market rally up and stop right on our dotted line there, just like a boss? I mean, you can't script this any better. And it was derived off of that rally peak, and that low over there. That's, I mean, that's some serious alpha. I think that's the term the kids use on social media trading. We got to get Colin. He's such a. It's so fun listening to Colin because he says all of the right words. Oh, I'm holding my bags. I got a bag from this level. I got a bag. I'm such a bag holder from here. That's such a popular expression with these crypto kids. Like you like my bags, all that. I think they use that term, dropping alpha, all the time. I tell you, I just dropped some major alpha on you. I hope I didn't get any in your eyes. Anyway, um, so until we actually start seeing W's here, there's not a hell of a lot for me to get excited about. You've got bearish market structure. You've got the market smiling at you. If you like to follow nice, slow, simple trend models, we've got the moving averages trending nicely downward. We've got lower highs and lower lows being painted. We just had, and I think I was going to show you this, right? We just literally put in a new M here on Friday's breakdown. And of course, you know whose birthday to sort of top it all off. Thanks, Brian. Way to go. If anything, what I've said to people is, okay, now the birthdays happen. Now we can actually start thinking about, and it's probably, I hate to say it, and I've told you guys this repeatedly before, so it certainly isn't anything new, although I don't know why I don't have it on this screen. Usually these markets don't seasonally bottom until, oh, that's probably why, because it's right off the screen, eh? Oh, no, not even here. Anyway, usually it's this July 4th holiday weekend. So you can see in China, because of course we follow everything that Winnie the Pooh does. Our official holiday is July 1st. So this will be one of these screwy weekend, I guess, whole weeks where most of the world will be on holiday. This will be July 1st. Oh, goodness. Why don't we put this? We will go over there like that, and then the U.S. market, which is sort of the world hegemony and all that, their holiday will be July 4th, which is going to be a really weird holiday weekend. Does that mean that they get the following Friday off? Wow, this is going to be a really weird one. I don't think Friday will be a trading day, but with Thursday being the 4th, this is going to be a really screwy period. So you can see this has got Bankster, market manipulation written all over it. My hunch is that whatever pivot that ends this down move, and yeah, I hate to say it, folks, I mean, that's the kind of duration that I'm looking for this correction. If we're lucky, right, all we do is just bang around in this area and then start working our way up and start botting out. And if these levels hold and we do actually start turning up, well, you can see the bot objective is all the way up here at 91,700 with outlandish upside objectives of this isn't high enough off the screen. I just wanted to move this off so I could show you this in the future, but not delete it. Anyway, sorry about this. Okay. Um, we could work our way all the way up on the next sort of blow off top, all the way up to 127s to 1.618. Notice this is basically what happened the last cycle. This is actually pretty normal. The only problem is, I put out a tweet recently saying, you know, today's bear market sets up tomorrow's bull market. Today's bull market sets up tomorrow's bear market. What you can't do though in this game is you can't come in after a big bull market and expect more bull market, because that's actually asking for trouble. And one really, really easy way, again, if you're here to learn stuff and you're like, we used to have this guy, Great Del Moody, who would watch these free Sunday shows and take notes feverishly about how to learn how to trade. You can do it if you want. I don't have a problem. I mean, half of the reason I'm trying to like make a better, contribution to this world. I'm trying to make a positive difference. I'm trying to spend whatever time I have left on this silly little planet existence trying to offset the insane evil of all these bankster crooks. That's how, you all know my story. I lost the love of my life 13 years ago. And I just sit here in regret every fucking day, just wondering, why am I still here? Obviously, somebody's got to look after Lily. The only problem, of course, is that he's nonverbal and you get absolutely no feedback, no thank yous, none of that for looking after him. So that's a terribly thankless job, which I wholeheartedly do. And the entire time, in fact, we were joking about this. Literally, I have lived. You want to see proof that since JoJo passed, this is all that I have done. The first, I guess I don't know. This is the first one, but it was kind of a fun thing over the weekend through the birthday. Everybody was finding old broiler chicken shows. So here is 2014. So quite literally, I've been doing these things for 10 years. And this was my old logo from my 1980s website. People used to make fun of me. Turn the neon off. Oh my God, where's Don Johnson and his Ferrari and his funny pink shoes? Anyway, I mean, I've been doing this forever, and it's my calling, right? Here's one from 2017 that I even posted. Hey, you want to go back? People were finding old broiler chickens from years ago to watch. So I've literally dedicated my life to this prospect. And the only thing that I can really say that the only way I can really put it into words is I'm trying to make a positive difference in this world. And I don't know whether I am or not. Sure hope so. I get a lot of feedback from a lot of you saying, yes, you are, Brian. Hopefully what ends up happening is I go to the other side when my time is up, and the people on the other side say, yep, you did what we asked, Brian. This is how I live my life 24/7. I'm thinking about you guys and the lounge and trying to, like I said last week, we had people in the lounge. If I leave this place TRI, I know for certain that within 2 or 3 months, the whole damn thing's going to turn into some big fucking circle jerk like every other crypto venue on YouTube and whatever social media platform you like. I didn't hear anybody in social media saying, you better cool your jets. We're walking into a big fundamental event. The way this usually goes is buy the rumor, sell the news. I didn't hear a single person. Can somebody over there on YouTube just at least acknowledge with me? And I hate to say it, I love this guy dearly. He's an absolute sweetheart. But, guys that I even trained that I thought were actually pretty damn intelligent were through here doing things like holding Oh, well, this time it's different parties. And these are people that I've trained personally. So, if I take the chance of leaving you people to your own devices, this TRI, the whole site, everything, it's just going to deteriorate right back into what all the public does. And you guys don't even realize it. And it just breaks my heart because I keep saying, I want to retire at some point. I want to take a step back and just let you guys do your thing and just let this. And I see that that's impossible because I'm just not getting through. I don't know. Well, this venture will go on as long as it was supposed to go on. As long as I keep showing up and doing exactly what I say I'm going to do, week in, week out, and there's no bullshit with me. We're not shilling some sort of, um, you know, uh, airdrops or whatever the term is, ICOs or whatever in crypto and stuff like that. We're not getting rich off of you people. If anything, there was a deal that our CTO Sjord brought to the community's attention, and I suppose we could have set it up where we would collect a commission off of referrals, but we're just like, man, if you feel like participating, the guys who are doing this deal are interested in raising a bit of money. They kind of opened the window for TRI, so we're going to participate a little bit. Let us know if you want to participate. It's up to you. We don't get any kickback or anything from it. And like literally, I mean, seriously, I think it was like six figures turned up, said, yep, we want to participate. It's like, well, maybe we should have charged a commission off of that. Referrals, affiliates, or whatever the fuck you call that stuff. Anyway, in the stock market, they used to call them B warrants. Every broker, right? Broker warrants. They would call them B warrants. And if you did a whole bunch of sales, the company would be so happy. They would give you a whole bunch of warrants for free. Anyway, so can't really turn bullish of Bitcoin here until we actually start Wing out. Also, too, in the newsletter, I had pointed out that on the total market cap, we're seeing a lot of this similar type behavior. Unfortunately, and what's really interesting about this is exactly the setup that we teach all the new people to trading as a range trading setup. And maybe you do know, maybe you don't. If you don't and you want to learn, get your butt into the school program. Keep in mind, we probably should do a shill for that. The new school term starts in, I think, just a couple days here. So there you are, 1 day, 8 hours, 51 minutes. And actually, what's really cool about this, and it's something that I haven't seen before, but I was actually pretty pleased by it. We do have a sales team now. And if you're skeptical and you want to have a conversation with a site alum, our sort of head marketing guy, everybody on the site knows him, Joshy. Nadia, she affectionately, and actually I saw a birthday wish from Nadia. So saw that in the lounge yesterday. Appreciate it, dear. Hope life in Germany is treating you okay. But Josh, an absolute sweetheart, and he has that prim British accent, so he always sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Anyway, if you're on the fence, you can always just have a conversation with him over the telephone, and he'll be more than happy to talk to you about the program and what it is that you should expect and what you should get out of it if you do decide to join us. I was very proud of the team for putting all that together. So, if you want a guided path here on how to, in fact, actually, the tweet that I even put out today was, while we wait for these corrections to play themselves out, and thank God there's a person like this Beamish guy around who just sort of said, don't get sucked into the euphoria of this. No, this is not different than any other time. This is actually business as usual. And we will know that this thing is a buy when we start seeing things like weekly W's again. And ideally, they should come in attractive trade locations. At the very least, we want to see things like 50% retracements of recent ranges. Ideally, I'd love to see the market come all the way back down into reload zones. I'm sure all of you that were Gucci sweater wearer buyers, and this time it's different buyers, you don't want to see that. But that's the type of guy that I am. Is that I've got a huge portfolio here of all these funny little altcoins, and I want to add more, but I don't want to add more until I actually start seeing some pretty good trade locations. So there were a couple names that were starting to perk up, like this Rune and stuff. Then I looked at the higher time frame charts, and I'm kind of like, oh man, it's awfully tough to come in and justify buying there. If you're flipping these things, okay, fine. If you like to trade off of lower time frames, great. I personally, I think I told you I tried to buy this thing down in here. Fuck the trade up because I'm terrible at this DeFi stuff, and I'm terrible at working with ledgers and all that kind of stuff. It was just an absolute mess. When I draw this, of course, I'm allowed to come in and buy in reload zones. Yes, I did see this W come in here, but that gets me buying up here. I want to be buying in green boxes. And ideally, my favorite fib, the line in the sand, I'd actually like to be buying this thing around $3. So it's very hard for me to justify coming in on the buy side here. I can understand it like a lower time frame trade, but a higher time frame, man, I really don't like what I'm seeing here. Somebody actually pointed this out in the lounge, and thank you very much to whoever did. If you're an investor in a name like this, I sure hope to God you sold halves on doubles and triples and stuff and just establish a risk-free trade. That's really what, again, what is Brian here to try and help you all do? The trap that almost everybody gets sucked into is maybe they buy here, they see this thing working higher, they see it pull back, they see it move to new highs, and they're like, whoa, see, that was a good idea not selling there. Sure, I'm glad. Just hold on. This thing's going to go to the moon. And then, especially if we get things like confirmed bearish divergence, yuck. Willie stupidly overbought, yuck. This thing might spend the next 6 to 8 months just working its way right back down to trendline support. So, I did hear one guy recently sort of say, I absolutely love what that Brian Beamish guy does, but I don't sell halves on doubles. I sell halves on I don't know what specific number he used, but pretty high numbers. And I'm kind of like, okay, but just try and remember the whole sell half on a double is just to reduce the amount of thinking involved, to make this as mechanical as possible. If you want your rule to be, well, I sell halves when this thing's triple from where I buy. Okay, well, so be it. I caution you about I'm going to sell half on 4x, 5x, 10x, right? And I'm disciplined. I will. I think you're stretching it a little bit, but that's just my 2 cents. So the problem here is, can I come in on the buy side on a name that looks like this? Yes, we do have a W working here, but it's just really, really bad trade location as far as I'm concerned. So, and I'm seeing that a lot on a lot of these names where I see cute little W's trying to come in, but they're not coming in at the best trade location. Like there was one that I saw this morning. It was, I want to say it started with an A. Maybe it's over here. Nope. Is it over here? Maybe it's over here. Where are you? No, you're not here. Darn it. ARPA. Yeah, it did start with an A. So here's another example of a name that is trying to W out here. I don't know if you can see that. ARPA. When I draw a good old fib, rally peak to trough. Yeah, good to see. We got 50% retracement. So at least they've cleaned up the excess. And notice where my buying window is. It's still kind of lower. I suppose you could argue that dips into this zone, nanny nibbles, little old ladies. Okay, fine. But I really don't like the fact that things like this W actually came in all the way up here. And really, this kind of smells like a trap because it kind of looks a lot like this over here. Notice we came down, put in a W, broke out. Hey, there's a W. Let's buy that. And then look how long we had to spend before this thing ultimately puked out and put in a bottom. So we had to spend through, oh, this looks kind of familiar. In this case, it was June. They put in this head fake bottom. And then this thing ultimately bottoms here in August. Ugh. And then that's the real bottom. And away we go. And if anything, what I kind of want you guys to try and avoid here in the short term is getting too excited about these kind of really fast little bottoms. And what I really want you to get excited about and try and hunt for, right? I'll make this kind of an assignment. Notice that we had the little fast little bottom down here. So we'd call that the eve. And then over here, notice we have just like a V bottom that tests these lows, and we call that the atom. So what ends up happening is actually there is your W. Down, up, down, breakout. And that takes, look how long that took to play out. August, September, October, and November, the end of October. Remember that celestial pivot, right? It was right on Halloween. That's when the market broke out, and that was your official start of the next bull market. What do you think? Was that a half decent little tutorial for you people? Somebody give me some feedback. Anyone? Bueller? Where's our Zoom call? Am I still connected? I might not even be. Yeah, it's weird. Oh, yeah. That sucks how I don't know whether you're is it possible, Chris, just to turn your camera off and then just leave the that window up and running? Because when you kill your camera, it's like literally the whole Zoom interface for me just disappears. It's so bizarre. Yeah, okay. I'm not quite sure why they built it. I suppose you're the host though, right? So, mhm. Yeah, it's irritating. Yeah, you've heard me say repeatedly, I'm so disappointed in the way that this silly internet and it's like they've turned us all into fucking zombies here with this internet the way that it's going. Um, really, really bad how this whole internet build out thing is developed. Really don't like it. I think I just prefer to get my price charts in the mail. Also, too, notice, right? This is probably also a good example where, it is kind of steep, but nonetheless, there is sort of a counter trend rally. Can I have W's on the other side of this trend line? And that's probably what that is over there. So unfortunately with this, and this is one thing about this current crypto market that I don't like at all. That, my friends, is a very well established downtrend now. Remember, you heard me, barking earlier about, we can't get bullish of Bitcoin until we start seeing W's on other sides of trend lines. And right now, these trend lines, they look like they're thick as molasses. Where are we? Like that downtrend line. Remember, we talked about that teal line and then the total. I mean, you can do the total. Like, let's do that trend channel off of the total. It's the same logic. So there to there to there. That's your trend channel right now on the total market cap. So it's not the most exciting of bull markets. In fact, it's not a bull market. That's a bear market. I even posted in the lounge the other day. the problem here is that is anybody in the public actually going to publicly come out and actually have the balls to say, oh, by the way, folks, we're in a bear market? Nobody has the balls to say that. What's cool about this image, I think I said there earlier, and I, got distracted with some crazy ass rant. I think that number one, it's fantastic to see that Steward's got the algos back up and running. So yay, way to go, Steward. Woohoo! But as I said, this is a setup that we actually teach in our education program. And it's just simply a function of identifying markets that are rallied back up to the top end of their trading range, right? That's reload zone. This is like TA 101, folks. I mean, let's do a little bit of interacting with the public here. And yeah, I mean, there's 33 people. If you guys, half of you got any value out of all of that, what I just said there, please hit the like button. As I said, I'm about the only guy that actually is going to tell you the straight, honest truth about whether it is a good idea to come in and buy in shorting zones. What are you, crazy? I mean, this is what kills me about this is anybody who's taken my education program knows better than to be bullish in reload short zones, right? The old airplane joke was, the green zone is for immediate loading and unloading of passengers. The red zone is actually, the green zone is for immediate loading of passengers. The red zone is for immediate unloading of passengers. Now, like, there were guys that are like literally crypto famous, millions of followers, and then we're coming out and saying this time it's different. And you got to get in there and buy. And the worst part about it is this one guy, he did literally exactly the same thing at 60,000. When we were back up here last cycle, he did exactly the same thing. You could literally set your stopwatch to this guy. And it frustrates me so because, like I said, the whole point of me sitting here week after week, month after month is trying to get through to you. And yet this guy's a major social media influencer, and he literally made the exact same mistake as he made here. And I publicly called him out for it, said, you're just being a stupid idiot. What are you doing? And you have a fiduciary responsibility to look after your audience. And he just completely disregarded it. Drives you crazy. Anyway, Chris wants to tell me something. What's up, Chris? I didn't swear. All right, good. Let's keep moving on. Thank you. So anyway, the point of the matter here is we have definitely well-established market tops here. And what I really like I said, is that this is exactly what we teach you in the education program. First, wait for trade location. Then wait for your indicators to start saying that, price isn't nearly as strong as you think it is. And sure enough, and ironically enough, I'll make one more reference to him, but the jerk that said this time it's different at 60,000, he walked into the exact same trap that RSI laid for him last time, because RSI was in bearish divergence when he did it then. And he did it here this time as well, right in the face of an RSI bearish divergence. Folks, if you want to learn how to be a better trader, if you ever see this kind of price action in your RSI, just put your wallet away. Just put it away. It's so obvious. Of course, in hindsight. And it was very difficult for me to slow all you down. But anyway, criteria number 2. And, DMAC over there on YouTube. I don't know, Bursilo Card. I don't know whether you know or not. Dave Destroyer Stud Muffin. Wow, there's a name. Preston, I think. Hey, there's Jim and Liz. Hey, I wanted to wish you a happy birthday, Liz, there, but I didn't know your Discord handle. So I asked Adam. He didn't know your Discord handle either. So I couldn't wish you a happy birthday yesterday. And by the way, this is all her fault why the market's tanking here. Right. Anyway, so we had, Liz and Jim, like, I hope you guys are learning from this because this was just so incredibly textbook. And now, Liz, you should understand these bearish divergences. Willie's stupid. I mean, this was so cliche. It was ridiculous. So the point here is that if you get any bearish market structure, i.e. big fat M's in price, that's a short. And, I mean, you could have taken this. This is what we call a dirty top because this high was slightly higher than this. But yeah, hell, you could even take this huge, massive M. I don't really like that trade. I think I showed you if I want to trade, I really want to try and be hunting these happy little short guys. These guys are the bomb. If you can force yourself as a trader to come in here, this is damn difficult to do. Very, very advanced, having the balls to actually come in and short those highs up there. But you can see there he is just sitting in the money all nicely, and he's just a happy little short, just doing his thing. Really nothing for me to do here on this at all. So, but anyway, now we have the big fat M market structure. I don't see any reason why alts couldn't work their way. This is the typical 50% retracement, WD GAN. It's pretty normal stuff. And then, like I showed you on that tweet, although I don't know where I put it, the Bitcoin move, I think, and I mean, let's call a spade $50,000 for one Bitcoin. I mean, $50,000 for one Bitcoin. I mean, is it really going to be the end of the world if we see Bitcoin trade at $50,000 for one Bitcoin? Is that like Bitcoin's going to zero? I don't think so. But, if anything, write this down because this is a really good lesson for all of you. This is like 3 or 4 different market participants. And, this is sort of like why I do what I do is I have some unique concepts that I bring to the table. Things like Willie. That Willie indicator will keep you out of a lot of trouble if you respect him. 3-step setup, which in a weird sort of way is actually a juxtaposition of our level 1 instructor's approach to my L tangonators and all that kind of stuff. This is actually a setup that was taught to me over 30 years ago in the commodities industry. Gnarly old commodities trader setup, 52-week range. We're not looking for Bitcoin to go to zero, and we're certainly not looking for Bitcoin to break its 52-week lows. Not at all. All we're just doing is saying, can Bitcoin come back to the mean? What is the average price paid for one of these things over the past year? That's the 50% rule. And this is WD GAN 101 right here. If you don't know who WD GAN is, you want to learn. Well, this is what our education program is all about. Level 2, we spend probably about 2 or 3 weeks on WD GAN. He's so important. Snowboarding JJ says 3-step setup is old faithful. I tell you, there are a lot harder ways to make money trading than just simply trading 3-step setups. I mean, they're so simple. So, I showed you the one that's actively working here in total, but hopefully you can see the Bitcoin one. It's basically the same thing. We don't really have indicator confirmation on here, but this is 3 different concepts to suggest that we come down here and there's no indicators here at all. This is WD and this is just simply geometry, market symmetry, whatever you want to call it. Markets like to retrace 50% of their most recent 52-week range move a lot. It is just normal. It's what markets do. Also, too, you notice that was a pretty important technical breakout level. So a check of that technical breakout level is attributable to, well, and I mean, it just happens, but the American that sort of coined it, and we always like to, associate some guy's name with the concept, and we call this the Wyckoff check now. If the market comes down, kisses that level, and then turns away. Also, too, this is a big, fat, round number. Like I said, 50 grand for one Bitcoin. That is a hell of a lot of money for one of these things that less than 10 years ago was trading for under $1 a piece. $50,000 for one of these damn things. Wow. I mean, let's put that into perspective. That's a lot of money. So to see it come from like 70,000 back down to 50, it's not really that big of a deal. I might even argue, good old trend lines. And if I redrew this, reload zones, mountain man, line in the sand, my hunch is we probably got to trade back to this lower trend line. But this was Kenny Roberts, and I even put in the tweet. If you know what this is, TWAMPMM, Twampum. If you know what that means, then actually you're an old timer. You've been at this game a long time, because this was the first newsletter subscriber service that I ever subscribed to back when we used to get our charts in the mail. So, wow, that is old. So if you know what Twampa means, then I know that you're an old timer like me. And this is just commodity trader 101 stuff, not rocket science at all. So would it seem logical that we just, going to oscillate around a little bit? Do we always just go straight up and never stop going straight up? I mean, you can see how we oscillated in the past. Look at this oscillation. Jesus, we went up and down for like 6-8 months. Could we do that here? Well, why not? It's not outlandish. And oh, by the way, if you drew that high down to this low, is this getting close to 50% of that range? Getting pretty close. Anyway, I won't go too much into that. Just the point being that, whether you follow the 3-step setup kind of thinking, location, indicator confirmation, market structure, go, or if you apply just really basic, old 1980s commodities trader, M top, 50% level as your target, Wyckoff checks, 50% retracements, big fat round number checks, trading oscillating in a trading range established by market structure trend lines. It's not outlandish to think that Bitcoin could trade back to 50 G's. It's actually incredibly straightforward, not rocket science at all. Okay, so that's unfortunately the backdrop for what you're looking at here now. And as I said there a moment ago, tickled pink. And what my job needs to be over the next 6 months, of course, encourage you, if you do want to learn how to be a better trader, you want to learn how to run a small business of trading, learn what setups are, learn the importance of working with a trading plan, learn the importance of proper risk management, identifying what type of risk taker you are, and then building a framework of behavior around that. You want to learn the importance of journaling and logging. Try and manage yourself, manage your behaviors, manage your expectations, manage your emotions. That's what the education program is all about. And frankly speaking, I don't think anybody anywhere on the net does a job anywhere close to what we do. This education program is an absolute gem. It'd be a real shame if we have to shut it down because I just can't convince enough of you to consider stop gambling and stop FOMOing and approach this like it's a small business. And what do you have to do to actually ensure that a small business actually runs efficiently? And if you ever go to the bank and you ask for a business loan, what is the very first thing? This will be a fun little interaction with you YouTubers. What is the very first thing that the bank asks you if you ever go and ask to the bank? You go to the bank and you ask for a business loan. Well, we want to borrow money because we want to run this small business and we think there's an opportunity. What is the very first thing that the bank asks you for? Well, look at that. We lost the person who was here with us in the lounge, eh, Chris? I guess I must have said something inflammatory. Anybody on YouTube know the answer? I mean, this is our level 101. And if you don't know this, how on earth can you expect to come to trading crypto and expect profits? Anybody know? What is the, and it's basically the only thing. I mean, obviously the bank's going to ask you for your credit history and, do you have any collateral and stuff? But there's one thing that, of course, outlines all of that. Thank you, Jay. One person answers. So why would it be? Well, no, DMAC. I mean, what they want is they want your business plan. And if the business plan is solid, they look at it and they go, okay, yep, that makes sense. No, if anything, having trading history is actually against you. What they want to know is, do you have a plan? In fact, actually, most people that come to TRI with a little bit of trading history, we have to take a lot of time and undo a lot of the damage that other people have done because they just don't understand things like you have to take a risk first approach. Absolute priority number one. You must take a risk first approach. What does that mean? Do you know what having a risk first approach even means? And if you don't, maybe take a bit of time and invest in yourself before you start investing in the market. Educate yourself. So anyway, I'm super, super stoked that, as I said there a moment ago, we can finally now start talking about the algorithms and the dashboard. That really was supposed to be our primary driver of building this website. I mean, the school, ironically enough, it's a good venture. It's good karma. It's good giving back to the community. You're learning what it actually takes to be a professional at this. Really, our ultimate goal is we wanted to build these screening systems and algorithms and stuff to set you up so that you can get sort of ideas to consider in your email box on a daily basis. And I'll tell you right now, that image does not look like an image I want to get super excited on the bull side about, unfortunately. That's you better cool your jets kind of image. It is, obviously you guys don't want to hear this, but half of the time with algorithms, they don't care about emotions. They aren't emotionally attached to the market. That's why algos actually do so well trading, is they just don't have an opinion. Of course, the algo's got to be operating correctly. That's another conversation for another day. As we said, Stuart has spent quite a bit of time trying to get the engine back online. And as you can see, we had an absolutely incredible, I got it, Chris, we got to be able to do some sort of clip about this because you just don't see these kind of signals every day. Oh, that's not what I wanted. What do I want? I want, and maybe you can already correct me. Well, Brian, I already did the clip. It's right here. If you do have this and you did the clip, then man, I'd like to share this with people. And maybe you can make a timestamp on this video where we can pull this out. But the way that I designed this to work originally was the histogram here will actually tell you when really good buy and sell signals come into the market. So you can see how these histograms here, this is the short term or sort of like a fast signal. This is a medium term. If you ever get a situation where in the medium term the market is very oversold, and in the short term the market is very oversold, that's like a no-brainer pivot. And sure enough, you can see how the whole market in the US specifically, it also pivoted right through that window. We also had fun, sadly, the question you would ask is, well, why did that happen? Half of the reason us as traders, we don't really ask what the why is. We just ask, is there money to be made using this information? So, here was that April 16th, 17th pivot right here. And you tell me, proof of the pudding's in the eating. I mean, was that signal from the breadth indicator correct? I'd say so. And interesting how the indicator now is actually getting a little bit toppy. And it really shouldn't surprise us because here we are now back up against the top end of the trading range here. Now, I think if you dig into the derivatives markets, things like the options markets, I think you can actually make a justifiable case as to why this mysterious rally out of nowhere happened. And of course, Wall Street, hits a monster home run on this mysterious dead cat bounce rally. And if you look at the data, I mean, the University of Michigan number that came out on Friday, you'd swear we were in a Great Depression now. And yet, ironically enough, the stock market moves up. Why? Well, it moves up because Wall Street wants to make damn sure that all of these options that make money when the market goes down, and they were all very valuable when the market was going down, they want to make damn sure that all of these options expire worthless on expiry day. And this is basically these options expiry day right here. And notice, look at these, like 14,000, 24,000, 22,000, 29,000, 20, 36, that all expired worthless. And then what options actually expired worth something that Wall Street was going to have to pay out? 250, 1,700, 2,500, 400, 4,000. Oh, poor babies. I guess they're going to have to shell out some money there. And then 3,000. So you can clearly see how manipulated this market was. But, that it's one thing to be able to identify the manipulation. And of course, this is a concept that we teach in our level 3 program that I actually teach students myself. So, if you do actually sign up for the education program, you do actually work with the Beamish. And actually, I start off the level 3 program with, okay, quit pussyfooting around. You all suck. Now show me your pro trader workbenches. I want to see report cards. I want to see you making self-assessments of your behavior and your trading performance, and no more pussyfooting. And I think a lot of students are like, oh, well, where's all that fun, happy-go-lucky PMI Beamish guy that we're supposed to be working with? So get ready, you new level 3ers. I'm going to rock your world. But anyway, the point being here that, this is exactly why we build the dashboard. And, if you got this email report in your mailbox first thing in the morning with a big red warning, country funds and S&P 500 are both oversold on the short and medium term. Look for a pivot. Well, that would have been a pretty damn good signal. As you can see now, we're actually starting to roll over. We haven't really gotten egregiously overbought in the short term, so I could still see some gains up here. But it is interesting to see how slow is working its way up into that overbought camp there. So as you can see from the histogram, nobody is egregiously overbought, but notice, look how the country funds have all flipped uber bullish. So that means if we get a week or so of the market grinding its way higher, and we get the country funds egregiously overbought, then that's going to give a warning. Country funds, or basically world equity, is getting egregiously overbought on the short and medium term. Warning. And I tell you, I think that's worth its weight in gold. So I was exceedingly pleased to see that. Something also too for like the slow investors our weekly commodity trend summary report, I was actually a little surprised to see this today. But if anything, this is perfect. This is exactly how this is supposed to work. Number one, remember when we looked at this when the market was up top there a month or so ago, there were no fives and what the hell, there was definitely no sixes. But look at what we got here. We got a six. A six is actually, let's start paying attention. So, just for illustration purposes, again, could you get a report in your email? Show me when the weekly commodity trend survey is spitting out sixes. Because I look at this name and I go, this is actually starting to look pretty darn attractive. So we're not allowed to chase. So we can't buy this up market. If you did buy this original W at, what is that, $6? Oh, what a surprise. There's $12. So you could have sold half on a double and got your free position established. If you had bought this at $6, $7, looks like a better part of 7, and you'd said, okay, I'm going to sell half on a 5X. Well, then that means you got to see $35 to sell any. Did you get your fill here? No. So this is a really good reason why the sell half on a double principle, keep it simple, stupid. Don't overthink this stuff. Point here is, I think there was a pretty good opportunity to establish a risk-free trade. So that would be like your first car. And why don't we paint this first car like yellow? Let's maybe make it something like that, right? And on this first car, right, we'll even label it first car. Let's go left. There it is. And let's make this yellow too. So then you shod your first car. I mean, this is like a master class on how to get rich in the stock market. Is anybody interested? It's remarkable how cliche this shit is. So anyway, there is your first car, sell half on a double. I have now established a risk-free trade. I got my original capital back. And now look at what's happening. The weekly trend is still up. And as long as these moving averages are still pointed this way, the trend is still up. So I could make the argument, and you can see where we are in reload zones. You can also see where we are in relative value. If we think about where was like most of the volume traded on this thing. So like little old ladies, you know how much I love my 78.6. What a surprise. The 78.6 is basically exactly where we strapped on the first car. Well, now we're going to take our original capital and now we're going to go and buy a second car. And this is how this game works. So, we'll keep this on the screen. And let's watch how we do over time. But I like the idea. If you want a little old lady, this. Okay, so you came in with your second car here. Now you can't really see it. Let's put it below. So this would be like your little old lady approach. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're at market timer, I think what you do at this point is you say, look at the weekly trend is pointing up. The weekly commodity trend survey has said, look at the trend is up, but the asset has come back down against the bottom end of its range. It's time for us to start paying attention. So now if you want to really time your purchases, notice the daily trend. You can see it. It's as plain as day. If we get a trade up through this high here, what is that? That's 795. Well, that's a nice big fat W. And actually wouldn't surprise me. It'll be interesting to see if that's definitely broken that M. Show me a W on the other side. And actually you might like seeing whether this is broken. I don't think it has yet. No, we're right there. So if you were like, Brian, I love trend lines and I want to see a W on the other side of this trend line. Okay, I'm totally cool with that. If you're like, well, actually I don't mind. There's a W there. So really all this is going to be is a W within a W. I wouldn't fault you either way. I mean, this is really the sort of the art of trading. What works for you as an individual? I really don't mind if somebody comes along and says, weekly commodity trend survey. I did my first car. I sold half on a double. Market dipped right back down into reload zones, and I'm in here aggressively hunting for my second car. Totally fine by me. That's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. So anyway, let's see what happens here. And if anything, this is an absolutely beautiful sales pitch for this service that we built. I used to run this when I was a commodities broker, just doing this strictly on the commodities markets. I think it works pretty well in crypto. And oh, by the way, crypto is a commodity, whether you like it or not. Of course, a lot of people will argue that with me. But anyway, okay. I think that's about it for the rants here today and everything I wanted to talk to you about here off of this. Like I said, that really jumped out at me. And I was even sort of partially debating as to whether I put that uni chart in there. Or do I go with sort of the total, the entire crypto market? And what does it look like? I get the impression that there are sort of like individual stories that look attractive. As I had said with the total, I really need to see W's before I can get like outright bullish here. If you came to me and said, Brian, is uni like trending higher right now? I'd say no. We want these moving averages to cross back bullish. We want to see these W's. We'd like to see a W on the other side of the trend line, all that kind of conversation. But what I will say is from a weekly perspective, this thing's starting to look very cheap. And it's starting to look like it's backed up into an area where I can actually get serious about getting back into this story. And I thought that was super cool. You don't see that every day. So was quite pleased to see that. Down in this area, I have no problem whatsoever being long from $6.30 on this thing. If you're going to little old lady this, then you don't really care too much about the price action. If you're going to leverage trade this a little bit more high octane, I think you wait for the W to come in here and you're simply going to be risking against these lows. Anyway, food for thought. Really love that weekly commodity trend survey, and it's doing its job. Like I said, a week or two ago, so I'm going to put that away. A week or two ago, when we were looking at this, well, not a week, let's say a month or so ago, when we were up here, there was nothing that was producing fours or fives or anything off this weekly commodity trend survey. So it's doing its job. This is exactly what it's supposed to do. And I might even argue that there's actually a pretty robust shopping list of ideas. In fact, actually, our algo right now really likes LTC. So there's another one that it's a 5 right now. And this is our momentum indicator off of our platform. And it just tells you what is the strongest name. So this is a weekly commodity trend survey. It's giving you a 5 reading. Fives are pay attention. Sixes are like, wow, you better laser beam pay attention. So interesting to see we got a 5 on Litecoin. If we come back to our actual screeners, and actually we have a crypto page specifically for you crypto kids. I thought it was really interesting. This is just our basic screener model. These are some fun screeners I like to follow. But our crypto page, Sjord's still building it out after he had to rebuild the whole thing. I would strongly suggest that you just watch the leaderboard. Oh, interesting. Look how LTC fell out of the leaderboard. That's funny. But LTC was looking actually pretty bullish a week or two ago. And I think the reason why it fell out of the leaderboard was, and actually, I had it on here, did I not? Yeah, Litecoin, there it was. I actually don't mind, like we were just talking about, what was the name of that one that we were just talking about? Uni, right? Litecoin's really interesting here too. So you can see, there's your primary trend off the top. Looks like we're breaking that. That's good to see. Yeah, I might even do another one there. And then the only thing I don't like about this is where this W is potentially coming in. I would actually prefer it to be a little bit lower. I actually wouldn't even mind if we melted back down. But on a strictly momentum basis, I said, well, if you're a trader, and the other day this thing did pop up on the screen, and it was just simply if this thing goes and W's out here, then that's a short-term momentum signal, and we're above trend lines. So it looks to me like this could be some nice open air here. So keep your eyes peeled. I mean, this is a nice, simple freebie idea here for you. But the point is that the algo actually generates these ideas for us to pay attention to on a daily basis. So if you are shopping, that's the one thing I love about this site is that every day you can come in and ask yourself, who are the hot names in crypto right now? It's interesting that Render, this is one of Sjord's names. I can't justify coming in and buying that up here. It is looking pretty good. And I think if I'm not mistaken, NVIDIA has earnings this week. So we might see some fireworks around that. Also, too, I picked apart a lot of these sort of the crypto universe names. And like this RLC, this was a favorite of mine forever. And I absolutely love that. Interesting how Uni here is in the bottom list, though. So you can see Uni's kind of on the outs right now, momentum wise. But I like that location. If we could get Uni to turn back up here, give us some sort of momentum buy signal, I think that's an incredible buy, with that being a 6 right there. But things like this RLC, Jesus, this thing looks beautiful. I don't know whether I like it at this price here right now, but gee whiz, look at that big fat W staring me in the face. So you can see the momentum bottoms are trying to come in here. Yeah. So, like I could probably spend time just clicking through all these just one by one by one and looking at each and every one of them. That was sort of the purpose of this little sheet that I put up on the site the other day, is just let's see how these things develop. This was a reading from, I think this was the 5th, if I'm not mistaken. There's the render. I can't justify buying that there. I just don't have a setup to justify going long there. It's a tough one. This Tron seems to be pretty popular right now. That looks like an inverted head and shoulders, maybe even a cup and handle, although not really very handly anymore. Solana, of course, all you Solana fans. I think it's pretty straightforward. If Solana can get up through this, kind of the same thing as Tron there. Looks like a bit of a cup and handle. So if we are up through this 159, let's call it, on Solana, then we're back in business. Problem I have with Solana, though, is I don't like how this trend line is going to be major resistance for us going forward. So I could very easily see a nice little rally, boom, 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 up into here. But once that's done, I'd be skeptical. So I gotta say, Sjord's Rand, if anything, this is a really, really good lesson in why we built the fundamental analysis portfolio. Sjord is one of the best fundamental analysts I have met in this entire 10-year crazy adventure here in crypto. He knows his shit backwards. And we have a page specifically. These are the names that TRI is heavily invested in. And we expect these to do very, very well, like 5x, 10x, 20x, 100x going forward. In fact, I would not be surprised at the end of this run that render is 10x from current levels. Now you can see where we're long from. So we're already up 10x. So I could very easily see that rend is a 100xer for us. I could very easily see that. All right. Okay. So we'll leave the pitch at that. What I would say is if you like fundamental analysis, TRI's got you covered. And as I said, there was a name that Stuart mentioned that he was participating in. TRI is going to participate in. I said I'd take down some paper in his Tuesday report. If you want to hear it from the horse's mouth, get signed up at TRI every Tuesday. We have Stuart come in and drop nuggets of wisdom. And he's one smart ass motherfucker. Excuse my French. You're not going to meet a smarter guy in crypto than Stuart. I'll tell you that much by crackers. And actually, he does have plans. And I kind of endorse the idea because I do like the idea of you guys kind of taking over the community over the next couple of years. He's talking about like creating a DAO or I don't know what it's called for TRI. And I actually fully endorse him. He's excited about it, which I love because I want to see Sjord and my business partners excited about stuff in their lives. So look for that. You want to become a part of TRI, the ownership structure of this community going forward. In the next year or two, we're thinking about seriously going along those lines. So pop in, become part of the community. Say basic site subscription. I think it's just a few $100 a year. I mean, it's not really much considering how much you get for the membership. And here is the list of names that I think that this portfolio alone will easily be in the millions of dollars at the end of this cycle. Easily. Now, I'm not telling you to go and buy this stuff. Other people have said, well, why don't you start a fund? Why don't you get a fund going? Well, we might just do that, but I don't care whether you buy any of this or not. This is a public service to you all. And what I would say is if you are serious about crypto, then get your butt on the site and get participating on that Tuesday call because Fjord's an absolute genius. We also have we've got, you know what? I've got to get to the Q&A document. There's so much stuff that I could tell you about TRI. It's super exciting. The prospects for the future have never been brighter. It's just really a question of can we get through this horrible decade, this 2020s, where they're literally destroying our standards of living. And you can see how our Western society is crumbling. I don't know what our societies, hell, I don't even know if our countries are going to look like they look now here coming out of this decade. But if you want to learn how to trade, you want to become a badass trader, you want to participate in this crypto bull, well, get your butt on TRI because, man, we know our shit. We do it. We teach you guys how to do this. And for whatever it's worth, I don't lose money at this game. Sometimes I'll tread water for like maybe weeks, months on end, but I do not like losing money. So if anything, I had $3,000 stolen from me off of this whole DeFi experiment recently, and it's kind of it's caused me to slow down a lot in crypto recently. But the good part about it is Sjord's still going 100 miles an hour. So take advantage of him while you got him, folks, because he's the shit. Okay, let's get to the questions. We got about a half an hour left here. Then, of course, then I have to head off to my number one job. So let's see where the AMA document is. I think Chris shares it with me. He does a pretty good job at sharing this stuff. AMA, there it is. Doink. All right, let's see what we got here today. I don't know why it is you talk for an hour or two on YouTube and all of a sudden you start yawning. Yeah, RLC is a bit expensive, friend. I don't really like the look of the most of the crypto right now to me looks very trappy. I think that's the best word to describe that. In years gone by, I would go, Brian's usually right, but Brian's usually early. And well, not years gone by, I'd always say that. It's just the way I am. But years gone by, I'd be like, all right, let's start going in and let's start, nibbling away. if you're a little old lady, I really don't have a problem with that. Just make damn sure your name's in a reload zone, right? Right. We all know that. But I'm thinking this correction, and it's going to become mind numbing listening to me now, because as we were going through that whole top, it was mind numbing to hear Beamish day after day, week after week, literally month after month going, don't buy into here. You're going to get run over. This is a trap. It's not different. This is business as usual. And now we're going through that process. As you see here, usually the seasonal bottom comes in around that July 4th holiday weekend. And oh, what a surprise. That holiday event happens on a really weird date. So this year's July 4th holiday weekend is going to be an absolute mess with, probably that whole damn week is just going to be like one big pseudo government holiday. And I think that's what we have to go through. So, here's Brian's birthday. And here is July 4th. I think that we've got to go through. I don't know what the hell this is going to look like. As I had said earlier, maybe if we're lucky, it just looks like this. And then we start climbing the wall of worry and away we go. It could, as long as we keep seeing these damn M's, it could look something like this. And then we turn and we climb the wall of worry. I don't know what the hell this is going to look like. So I actually don't mind your comment there, Fred. If you want to go nice and slowly, if you're a little old lady, you're just putting in like a 0.5%. And on something like the uni here, if you're a little old lady, then you're just half a percenting your way along here. And I don't have a problem with that because we're in reload zones. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if you want to time your purchases, this guy, sixes on that screener, it's telling you that, hey, it's cheap. But something like the RLC, that's not cheap. If anything, this to me looks like, at best, this is like a bot. And I think this is what I actually put together for the site members the other day. And I was like, well, you want to take that momentum trade in the screener results. Keep in mind that the leaderboard is nothing more than just sort of what is really hot right now. And you can see this thing's moved up quite a bit. I might even just sort of bot this out and just say, all right, I've got one low, I've got two lows. If I can get some sort of dip here, get a third low, then maybe I can bot this out. And it did go beyond 66 though. So even there, maybe what you have to do is drag this all the way down to the bottom. And even then, it's still a bit suspect. If anything, what this kind of looks like to me is one of those big Wyckoff check events. But I would not be surprised if this thing has to settle down in here and just go sideways. So if you're trading off of the signals on the site, you're trading your setups, and that signal came in on a break through this little range here. And I think I even said that this was like a cup and handle off of like the 4 hours. And if you're going to trade this just purely on momentum, then I think there is the breakout, and you got a risk to that low there. And it's popped up a bit. Looks like it's pulling back, as I had said earlier. If I actually got a nice third low below this 25 line, then I might consider a bot here. But really, a guy like me, not a hell of a lot to do there right now. Okay, still trying to get to that damn AMA document, so bear with me. Here we are. Oh, 2 questions, so should be able to answer this fairly quickly. Here we go. Hey, Brian, what are your thoughts on what the market will do coming into next eclipse event? Looks like is a lunar eclipse September 18th and a solar eclipse October 2nd. Perfect. So this is business as usual. If anything, we've been talking a lot recently about how, ironically enough, if you actually look at Bitcoin, I would not be surprised if we actually, for something like Bitcoin, we actually spend a good portion of the next 4 or 5 months just cleaning this up. So you're telling me next eclipse window is middle of September and beginning of October, somewhere in there. And I actually like just a nice consolidation and then look out above. It'd be interesting to see how Mr. Trump does through all of these kangaroo court things. I'm not even quite sure. I don't think that this Stormy Daniels thing, I don't think it's a criminal case. I think it's a civil case. So I don't quote me on that. It might be criminal. But if it's a civil case, then he's just going to be handed some ungodly fine. And I don't know whether you guys saw recently, the easiest way to solve all your problems in this society now is just float an IPO. And then the people that, who run this society and who want you to become president, I guess let's do it over here, right? What was it called? DT Donald Trump DTC? Chris, yeah, you were telling me about this symbol recently. What was it called again? Donald Trump's thing? DJT? All right. If I'm not mistaken, I think they ran this thing up to some ungodly level, and that gave him the opportunity to sell a whole bunch of stock and pay off all of his fines to New York State and stuff. So, I mean, the irony of it all is that this game is so bloody cliche; it's ridiculous. I mean, I suppose if you are a trader, you should look at that W and go, well, what the hell? Let's go long orange toupees and let's kick some ass. And what's also cool, I talked to you about Wyckoff checks and things like Bitcoin and stuff. Look at this textbook Wyckoff check. I mean, absolutely textbook in there. So you can't say you didn't even get the opportunity to buy that breakout. And then probably also too, what do you think the odds are that this was a reload zone? And good old Beamish and his favorite fib. Look at that, 78.6, right on the freaking nose. I don't know. Is this Beamish guy worth paying attention to? Are you here to make money from trading? I can't answer that question for you, but damn. I mean, that's about as cliche gets. Even had a nice gap there for you to place your order at as well. And there's a gap down here. Maybe if he loses the election, they come down to fill in this gap. Who knows? Anyway, so the point here is, maybe he gets some absolutely horrendous monetary fine. The case is about hush money. Now, like I said, is that a criminal case or is it a civil case? If it's a civil case, then I don't think it means anything, which is ironic. It means a huge fine, but 1% will figure out how to solve that for him. If it's a criminal case, that could be a different case altogether. I'm not quite sure about that. But, I might make the argument that, and this is what I think's happening, is usually in presidential election years, for whatever it's worth, that is my personal experience, they usually actually have a pretty good idea who's going to win the next election by the August Democratic National Convention event. So if somebody could just Google when is the Democratic National Convention, this is where I think you're going to find that's when you're going to find who, well, not who, but the market will have made up its mind as to who it thinks the market, who's going to win the next election. Thank you, like a boss. So August 19th through 22nd, you said? So let's say 22nd right there. And then how does that line up with the eclipse window? September 17th through 18th, and then October 2nd. So basically about a month later. Maybe we won't have resolution out of that, but I definitely think that that's going to be some sort of catalyst for the market. And then here is the eclipse window. So let's make a note of that. 17th, 18th. We'll have to go like that. And then we'll do another one over here. I like big butts and I cannot lie. Something like that. Anyway, here, let's put this as different colors so we can discern. I definitely like this as some sort of pivot low window here. I like that. You never know. You might find that actually is a pivot high. But I do like the idea that the market is probably range bound until we get through this. And then once we're on the other side of this, I wouldn't be surprised if, keep in mind, this eclipse was a cycle pivot high. And remember, this eclipse, right, was a cycle pivot low. So, and September and early October is usually a great time for a pivot low. So I'm thinking that this eclipse event is going to be a pivot low, which means that I would not be surprised if there's actually like civil unrest around this Democratic National Convention. Remember, probably most of you don't, but in the sort of politically active days of the 1960s and 1970s, early 70s, a lot of the major national protests and stuff were right around that Democratic National Convention. So I would not be surprised if the market is actually relatively firm into that. And then there's some sort of, strife or something around that. And the period from the end of that convention window into the eclipse is a big, oh God, what the hell is going to happen? It's the end of the world. And then coming out of this, I think the market, and it'd be interesting to see what orange to pay court cases and stuff when they resolve. I have a feeling it's all in this window, but I like the idea that this next pivot should be a bullish pivot for that eclipse window. So let's leave that on there. You're asking my opinion, and of course, that's all it is I don't have a crystal ball. You know how I don't like people getting into the business of predicting the future. You're asking me to predict the future. So I'm just going to simply say I would not be surprised if there's some sort of pivot low through here. That's my hunch. So we'll see what happens. And I do like the idea that basically from now until then is basically a sideways event. I think we have sort of like the first half of this is going to be down. Then the second half, and interesting into that sort of national convention, is going to be back up. And then following that national convention, a bit of softness into the event. Probably still up, maybe the consolidation is relatively shallow because it is the summertime and people don't really like to get too bearish through the summer. And then, we're going to get some sort of word of who the market thinks is going to win this next election. And it should be pretty obvious once we get into sort of, let's say, latter part of September. It should be pretty obvious who's going to win the next election. So, yeah. And actually, yeah, interesting. You mentioned that, just Jonathan. I won't call you by his name. That would be an insult. And actually, that should be interesting. I get the distinct impression that if the election is stolen from Mr. Trump, I think we will see the United States deteriorate into a civil war. It might be sort of like Joe Biden is some sort of crazy ass old dictator, kind of like what you saw in Iran, a million years ago through their revolution and the Shah, how he was so out of touch with the population. I could see something along those lines. It is interesting to see how the Jewish lobby is coming under a huge amount of pressure here right now. That was always a huge stalwart for the power base. Keep in mind the U.S. Treasury is basically run by the Jews. So That'll be an interesting sort of like us versus them. That'd be interesting to see how Mr. Trump sides with all of these, whether he does side with all of these Palestinian protesters and stuff. Because you can see the 1% is almost like manufactured this crisis. Because, that whole Hamas thing, something stinks about why they did all that. It just smells so suspicious. Um, and then of course Israel's reaction is just way over the top. So something smells suspicious about the whole damn thing. But what a great way for us to change the conversation. We're no longer really that interested in Ukraine anymore. We're certainly no longer that interested in, it's fascinating in my country how we had civil liberties come under immense amount of pressure, like what Jonathan's saying there over on YouTube page. And yet we're having the exact same protests, but much, much worse. Terrible graffiti. The truckers in my country, they never did any sort of long-term damage to Ottawa. They were just pissed off at the government and they wanted to voice their opinion in the nation's capital. It seems logical they should be able to do that. But the locals who live there didn't like the fact that these people were protesting 24/7 and making it to the point where you couldn't sleep there. Who knows who's right or wrong about all that stuff. But all I'm just going to say is fascinating. Like in my country right now, the people that are protesting, it's interesting how the Jewish lobby just doesn't seem to have a friend in our country right now. Fascinating. And the Palestinians are just, and all of these people that we've just brought into the country, they're all, definitely siding with the Palestinians. They're just running roughshod in their country. So you can see the seeds for civil war are being planted. You can definitely see it coming. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Be interesting to see whether that kind of statement that the seeds of civil war are being planted is actually considered hate speech. That would be a great tell that the 1% is clearly motivated to stifle free speech. Because frankly speaking, just acknowledging that things are happening in the background, that's not hate speech one way or the other. It's just acknowledging that, they're setting the stage for a really bad civil war here. And of course, the standard of living in my country has just collapsed. So that would also be a great opportunity for a civil war. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. Point is, I like the idea that this summer is going to be kind of shit. Prove me wrong. I mean, maybe we bought out here and we start cranking higher again in the stock market. I suppose we have Nvidia coming out that could rock the world. But I do kind of like the idea with so much political pressure right now. The market kind of just goes sideways here. The inflation problem, I don't think, is going away. And at the same time, too, the economic situation isn't getting any better. The consumers are really, really upset right now. And understandably so. I mean, the 1%, the banksters, Rothschilds, you know who. Great reset, you will eat bugs and be happy. They're getting away with the theft of literally a whole generation's livelihood. My generation, they're just stealing our wealth right from underneath us. So anyway, there's your answer. I don't know whether that's a helpful answer, but that's my answer for you. Question number 2. Back in 2017, you were LOLing against BTC pairs. I always presumed the theory was that if the alts wasn't outperforming BTC, then why not just hold BTC? Just wondering why you switched to using alts USD pairs these days. Thanks, Rich. Well, let's see, how would I describe this? First off, at that point, Bitcoin was relatively new into itself. Although I do distinctly remember that, I think it was even through this window, I did basically make the transition that I wanted to move away from valuing things versus Bitcoin. Um, and actually, I might even been through this transition in a weird sort of way. And I hate to say this to you guys, but I was supposed to leave here in 2018. 2017, 2018, we even had a Vancouver meetup, and that was supposed to be my goodbye. That was the end of this cycle, as far as I'm concerned. We're now in an anti-commodity cycle right now, which is so ironic because you see what they're doing to commodities, but what you don't understand is the commodity prices are not even really moving that much. I tried to explain this to the Wall Street silver people, but I don't think they understood that. I've put repeated tweets about this and stuff. So also too, I would say that it's probably in your best interest, and really all this all depends, of course, on your jurisdiction. But if you value your asset versus Bitcoin and you buy an altcoin, then you sell it versus Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is actually in a bear market and going down, man, it can literally be like, well, I was long and I bought, but I didn't make any money because Bitcoin fell in price. And through the bear markets, so that would be like, 18, 19, right? And then we based out in 1920. And then we had our bull market from like 2021 kind of idea. You really don't want to be valuing these things versus Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin's going down and your altcoins are going down, it's a double whammy. You get like doubly punched out. Then also too, you have to worry about tax consequences. And I think it's important, if you value it versus like USD or something like that, then at least you have a very clear idea of what kind of actual money you've made. If you're using these stable coins, just understand the stable coins can disappear just like that as well. So there's no guarantee in their stability, even though they use the term stable coins. So on balance, just to make it easier, and then of course, like I said, dealing with the tax man and the tax man coming in a lot more aggressively. Now, I wouldn't even be surprised if most people who are involved in crypto, especially in my country, and you get audited. And they're going to just make your life an absolute hell if you did things like value stuff versus Bitcoin, because every single transaction, you're going to have to show a capital gain or capital loss. And you have to, if it was a capital gain, then you have to make damn sure that whatever the appropriate inclusion rate is, you've included that in your tax reporting. And then if you didn't, are they going to penalize you? Are they going to charge you interest? Are they going to fine you? I could very easily see like a country like China being, if you're not invested in the crypto the way the 1% wants you invested, i.e., owning these exchange traded funds, they're going to make your life a living hell. And the sad thing is, it's not going to be the tax people themselves. They're just going to be like, hey, we're just doing what we're told. There's the law. I mean, I would argue that the taxation itself is it's all a con job. The whole money system is 100% a fraud. There's no doubt about it in my eyes. No doubt whatsoever. The whole system is a complete and utter fraud. But what can you do about it? We're just little peasant peons. So ironic that the people that are in power. I watched a video yesterday. It was so cool. The guy starts off with says, the kids are our future. Children are our future. We all love our children. And then he actually spent 35 minutes walking through how our society is actually fucking our kids over and fucking their future over violently. There's probably a good opportunity for Brian to wind this up. So it's actually a really good speech. It was one of those TED Talks. So he was very, very respected. I'll share the video on the in the TRI lounge if you want later on, if somebody wants it. I mean, the guy is very, very well respected. But if you're thinking about your kids, this baby boomer generation, and I suppose George Bush Sr., the greatest generation, I mean, they've literally spent their entire lives just screwing over the future. And unfortunately, all of you and I, we live in the future that they've screwed over now. So, unfortunately, you all have to pay your taxes. You don't have any choice. It's just the way that it goes. Um, I would say for simplicity purposes, for reporting, it's probably in your best interest to, if you're going to just trade versus Bitcoin, okay, fine. But you better make note of what the value of your investment is in hard dollars, because when it comes to tax reporting time, you are going to have to report that number. If you live in a non-stressed jurisdictional area of the world, then, do as you please. The reason why I value everything versus USD now, unfortunately, is I have seen both the bull side, where if you value in Bitcoin and Bitcoin's going up, oh, you look like a genius, you're so smart. Oh. If you value it in dollars, well, I mean, you're making money, but nonetheless, not at the crazy rate of just reinvesting in Bitcoin. But that's a double-edged sword, because then when we go through correction windows, kind of like what you're seeing happening now, my hunch is, yes, a lot of these names versus USD are going down, but versus Bitcoin, if you like add them together, the effect of a falling Bitcoin and the effect of your falling altcoin, the effects can be doubly as bad. And I think just from playing from a position of strength, I would suggest that that's the way that you go. And really, this is more of like the financial planner in me talking to all of you, versus the, how does it go? YOLO. We're all going to get rich trading crypto. This is kind of the, this is Uncle Brian. What's the smart thing to do from playing from a position of strength? Being able to report all your gains very easily, and then not getting swept up into the Bitcoin's a bull euphoria. Look at all the money I'm making versus Bitcoin is a bear. Despair. Look at how I'm getting absolutely destroyed day after day after day. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Sorry if I got a little salty there, but let's call a spade a spade. We're living in, as I started the video off today, we're living in very difficult times. And I don't think that we get out of this sort of tough environment now until we get on the other side of this election. And I do believe that if orange toupees are reelected, and the transition back to orange toupee kind of government and society happens, I think we're going to see this whole risk market, including the stock market, including crypto, including the altcoin market, we're going to see it go crazy. And at the same time, too, unfortunately, though, you're going to see the inflation problem. And we've talked about this lots, everybody. We all know that 2027, 2028, the inflation problem is going to be uglier than ugly. So just get ready. And I don't know how what happens here if Mr. Biden gets reelected. I would imagine the market should do relatively well. Yeah, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. I will say, though, if orange toupees do get reelected, I would expect this market to go absolutely insanely bullish. So I think all of you, in fact, I think even Trump the other day even said, if you're a fan of crypto, you better vote for me. So there you go. If you're a fan of the 1%, if you're a fan of you will eat the bugs and you will be happy, well, then vote for the old hair sniffers. I'm not quite sure which side of the fence I'm on right now. All I want is this communist dictator in my country to get the hell out, and let's come back to it can be conservative. That's fine by me. A super ultra conservative, I don't mind. I hate socialists. I hate communists. You know how much I love Winnie the Pooh. And the guy who's in charge of my country, he's not far from Winnie the Pooh kind of country we're living in here now. So, you know who I want to be in power here in my country. Or let's say who I don't want in power anymore. He's had enough time destroying this country. Can we please move on? So, all right. On that note, you know, if you did get some value out of all this, please hit the like button, subscribe, check out the YouTube video. I mean, there's tens of thousands of hours of content there. If you want to take your trading to the next level, keep in mind that we do have a day trader program that's very active. Chris, how's your day trading going? You still actively day trading? Hopefully he says yes. I don't know.
I am still actively day trading. Can't wait for the market to open to tomorrow.
There you go. And I'll be there trading crude oil in my little fun little account for Top Step to prove to everybody that I can still prop trade, make money from trading. Count's still up, so obviously I'm doing something right. And actually, I'm even trading my own personal account as well. So I am actually trading real money on these setups I show everybody on the site. So slow and steady wins the race. Of course, if you need some help, we would absolutely love to include you in our education program. And as I showed you, quick beat. Let's see how much time we have left now. You have a grand total of 1 day, 7 hours, 22 minutes. And you can even still have a call with Josh if you're sitting on the fence going, I don't know whether this plan's right for me. Josh will be more than happy to walk you through the whole program and help you make that decision. All right. Have yourselves a great day. Hugs and kisses. Wish Liam and I all the best of luck on the roads today. You know, actually hearing cases of road rage, which never used to happen in this country in the past. So wish us luck to stay in one piece. All the best. Would love to see you on the site. If you're into crypto, get your butt on the site for Tuesdays because Sjord's crypto analysis is second to none. And maybe you can participate in some of the hot deals that he seems to have access to, which is just an added bonus. That's just a nice treat. All right, everybody. All the best and bye for now.